The Nightmare Before Christmas. Halloween Town is a fantastical setting where many creatures and monsters connected to the holiday live. As the Pumpkin King, Jack Skellington is revered by the populace and guides them in planning the yearly Halloween celebrations. One morning, while exploring the woods, he comes across 6 trees that have doors leading to different holiday-themed worlds. In Halloween Town, Jack rescues Santa from Oogie's den and vanquishes him. Halloween Town celebrates Jack's survival and return as Santa gives real presents. Critics say, The Nightmare Before Christmas is an analysis of why Christmas is so special and magic beyond just the wrapping on the outside. Audience says, a delightful and magical story that can be enjoyed by all ages. Tim Burton and Henry Selick's stop-motion masterpiece is both a Halloween and Christmas classic, thanks to its wonderful songs, brilliant animation, and unforgettable characters. Overall, 95% fresh. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a stunningly original and visually delightful work of stop-motion animation. Die Hard. On Christmas Eve, New York City police officer John McClane pays a visit to his 2 children and divorced wife. He attends a holiday party with her at the corporate office of the Japanese-owned company she works for. However, a squad of terrorists attack the elite high-rise and everyone inside, interrupting the celebrations. McClane quickly comes to the conclusion that he is the only person who can save the hostages. Critics say, the gold standard for action filmmaking. What action movie tropes Die Hard doesn't follow? It reinvents or altogether originates, and all of them have yet to be bettered. Audience says, one of the greatest action movies ever made, certainly the most influential. Everyone should see at least once, even if time and imitation has dimmed its greatest to some extent. Overall, 94% fresh. Its many imitators have never come close to matching the taut thrills of the definitive holiday action classic. A Christmas Story. This well-known holiday film, which is based on the funny works of novelist Gene Shepard, centers on the Arctic adventures of young Ralphie Parker, who spends most of his time escaping bullies and daydreaming about receiving a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas. Ralphie fights to get to Christmas Day with his glasses and his hopes unbroken, frequently at odds with his irritable father but consoled by his adoring mother. Critics say, if you're a fan of Christmas movies or films that use nostalgia as a driver, A Christmas Story cannot be missed. Then again, if you're in either category, you have probably already seen it. Audience says, there's a reason that TBS plays this one for 24 hours straight every Christmas. This is about as classic a Christmas movie as you can get, right up there with It's a Wonderful Life and Rudolph. Story of Ralphie who wants more than anything for Christmas a Red Ryder BB gun. Full of classic gags and great lines. Overall, 90% fresh, both warmly nostalgic and darkly humorous. A Christmas Story deserves its status as a holiday perennial. Rare Exports. A Christmas Tale. A little child named Pitari and his pal Juso believe that the grave of Santa Claus has been found thanks to a covert mountain drilling project near their home in northern Finland. However, unlike the cheerful Saint Nick of legend, the Santa is a terrible, wicked figure. The old guy Pitari's father captures in his wolf trap may hold the key to understanding why children are going missing. Critics say, the flaws of Rare Export offer an important reminder that looking good on YouTube does not provide qualifications for a bigger screen. Audience says, I love the idea of looking at the darker aspects of the Santa myth, but the movie just never fully realizes its potential. Overall, 90% fresh. Rare Exports is an unexpectedly delightful crossbreed of deadpan comedy and Christmas horror. Edward Scissorhands. A scientist creates the compassionate Edward, an animated human. However, the scientist passes away before he can complete putting Edward together, leaving the boy with a bizarre appearance that is emphasized by the scissor blades he has in place of hands. Edward is found by loving suburban saleswoman Peg, who brings him home where he develops feelings for Peg's teenage daughter. Edward is an outcast because of his hands despite his goodwill and talent as an artist. Critics say the highest praise must be reserved for Mr. Depp, who, as the hero, manages to evince a gentle charm in spite of being encrusted with several ounces of makeup. Audience says, holds up well with the test of time. I remember the pace being a little slow in my youth, but the movie was a delightful character movie and all the performances are done well. Visually, Burton does his usual impressive work and has us in a unique world. Overall, 89% fresh. The first collaboration between Johnny Depp and Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands, is a magical modern fairy tale with gothic overtones and a sweet center. Gremlins. A gadget salesman visits a store in Chinatown in search of a unique gift for his son, while the shopkeeper is hesitant to give him the mogwai. He does so after cautioning him not to expose him to bright light, water, or food after midnight. A group of gremlins plan to attack the town on Christmas Eve as a result of all of this happening. Critics say, while some of the lines feel a bit dated, overall the movie has aged well, and it has the same fun, over-the-top energy that made it such a big hit in 1984. Audience says, it's a mix of slapstick, horror, black, dark humor, and goofy fun with some classic Looney Tunes style to it. One thing should be clear though, Gremlins is too dark to be a kid's movie. Really, you have the meanest gremlin sadistically attacking the hero with a chainsaw. Overall, 86% fresh. Whether you choose to see it as a statement on consumer culture or simply a special effects heavy popcorn flick, Gremlins is a minor classic. Elf. Buddy was unintentionally brought to the North Pole as a young child and raised as an elf till adulthood there by Santa's elves. In pursuit of his real father, Buddy journeys to New York while still dressed as an elf. Unsurprisingly, his dad is cynical businessman Walter Hobbs. Once a DNA test establishes this, Walter grudgingly makes attempts to connect with the innocent Buddy, with more chaotic outcomes. Critics say, sure, Elf feels a little too feel-good at the end, but what do you expect? It's a Christmas movie. Anything else would be the cinematic equivalent of finding coal in your stocking. Audience says, one of the last great modern Christmas films, Elf benefits greatly from my favorite performance of Will Ferrell's and the great supporting cast. Elf has some smart and hilarious humor mixed with a cute if slightly over-sentimental story and is sure to get you in the holiday spirit. Overall rating, 81. Overall, 85% fresh. A movie full of Yuletide cheer, Elf is a spirited, good-natured family comedy, and it benefits greatly from Will Ferrell's funny and charming performance as one of Santa's biggest helpers. Batman returns. In order to permanently depose the Batman, the terrifying Penguin teams up with the evil, shock-headed tycoon Max Schreck. Selina Kyle, Shrek's timid assistant, discovers the truth, but when Shrek tries to kill her, she transforms into the seductive Catwoman. She joins forces with the Penguin and Shrek to take down Batman. But when she faces the cape-wearing vigilante, surprising sparks fly. Critics say, Burton's dark, melancholy vision is undeniably something to see, but it is a claustrophobic conception, not an expansive one, oppressive rather than exhilarating, and it strangles almost all the enjoyment out of this movie without half trying. Audience says, better than the first film just due to the villains which were added. Penguin, Catwoman, and Shrek were fantastic. Michael Keaton was a good Batman, but a boring Bruce Wayne. Overall, 81% fresh. Director Tim Burton's dark, brooding atmosphere, Michael Keaton's work as the tormented hero, and the flawless casting of Danny DeVito as the Penguin and Christopher Walken as, well, Christopher Walken make the sequel better than the first. Bad Santa. The cranky Willie T. Stokes and his buddy get together once a year for a holiday con in this dark comedy. They rob retail establishments on Christmas Eve by pretending to be a mall Santa and his elf. Willie, though, is disintegrating this year. Because of his unpredictable conduct and alcoholism, he is suspected by mall security. But when a little child he befriends brings out his softer side, Willie starts to question whether there is still hope for him. Critics say, in the annals of movie profanity, this movie would rate an Oscar, but it's actually pretty sweet at heart, although never sentimental. And if you don't believe me, you know what you can do. Audience says, I actually saw the director's cut of this movie and wondered what gems were added to this version. Apparently many people love this film. I have no idea why. It is clearly a comedy for the uneducated masses. Overall, 78% fresh, a gloriously rude and gleefully offensive black comedy. Bad Santa isn't for everyone, but Grinches will find it uproariously funny. The Muppet Christmas Carol. The Muppets recite the well-known Christmas story by Charles Dickens, and Kermit the Frog portrays Bob Cratchit, the mistreated employee of miser Ebenezer Scrooge, while Scrooge receives visits from the ghost of 3 Christmases, the past, present, and future. Other Muppets, including Miss Piggy, Gonzo, and Fozzie Bear, make appearances. They make him aware of the mistake of his self-serving behavior, but the wretched old man doesn't seem to have much hope left for happiness. Critics say, vastly enjoyable despite the syrupy, soppy song bit in the middle. Go make a glass of mulled wine during it. Michael Caine is perfect in the role, and there are many genuine belly laughs. Audience says, easily the best Muppets movie ever. A great take on the classic tale, some catchy songs, funny humor. Michael Caine was great, but some bits may scare younger kids, but there's a lot of fun to be had. Overall, 75% fresh. It may not be the finest version of Charles Dickens' tale to grace the screen, but The Muppet Christmas Carol is funny and heartwarming, and serves as a good introduction to the story for young viewers. The Santa Claus. Divorced father on Christmas Eve, Scott has custody of his son. They are mysteriously transported to the North Pole when he mistakenly kills a man dressed as Santa Claus. There, an elf reveals that Scott must step in as Santa before the coming of the next Christmas. Scott believes he is dreaming, but over the ensuing months, he puts on weight and develops an oddly white beard. Scott may have a lot of work to do if it turns out that the night he spent at the North Pole wasn't a dream after all. Critics say, this is Alan's movie debut, and it's easy to see why his show is a rating smash. There's an effortless quality to his humor, but it's also got a quietly urgent edge to it. Audience says, filled with endearing cheese and holiday cliches, the Santa Claus isn't perfect, but it's hard to complain too much given its lackluster competition in the modern holiday movie market. Overall, 73% fresh, the Santa Claus is utterly undemanding, but it's firmly rooted in the sort of good old-fashioned holiday spirit missing from too many modern Yuletide films. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This holiday-themed made-for-TV film is a classic, based on a Dr. Seuss story about a Grinch who despises Christmas and wants to make everyone else's holiday as miserable as he is. Through the caring ooze of Whoville, the poor, small-hearted Scrooge discovers the true meaning of Christmas. Critics say, the story might be familiar, but watching the Grinch tiptoe around to "You're a mean one," Mr. Grinch always brings a surge of fuzzy nostalgia every Christmas season that never seems to get old. Audience says, perfection. It doesn't get any better than this. This is, quite possibly, the one perfect holiday movie. There has never ever been a more wonderful combination of talent than Chuck Jones and Dr. Seuss. Only a quick tug on my brow hairs can bring me quicker to tears than the scene where the Grinch learns the truth about Christmas. Pure perfection. Overall, 100% fresh. How the Grinch Stole Christmas brings an impressive array of talent to bear on an adaptation that honors a classic holiday story and has rightfully become a Yuletide tradition of its own. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph, the young reindeer, makes his home in the north. His father, being one of Santa's reindeer, naturally hopes that Rudolph will follow in his footsteps. His red nose, however, is a disadvantage that makes him an outcast. Critics say Rudolph set the template for dozens of specials to come from the theme of acceptance to celebrity narrators and original songs, but few ever match the captivating High of the Godfather of Christmas specials. Audience says, Christmas classic featuring some brilliant songs and animation from Rankin and Bass. Holds up even better today thanks to some adult humor and somewhat darker take on the holiday. A must every Christmas season. Overall, 95% fresh, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a Yuletide gem that bursts with eye-popping iconography, a spirited soundtrack, and a heartwarming celebration of difference. The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. In a new Disney Plus original special, Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Groot get into some high-spirited antics. Kraglin Opfont Airy, in the spirit of the holiday season, tells the Guardians how Yondu wrecked Christmas for little Peter Quill. Mantis and Drax fly to Earth and set down in Los Angeles in an effort to track down Bacon. The Guardians later throw Quill a surprise Christmas party, but Quill panics after learning that Bacon has been kidnapped against his consent. Critics say, adept at taking B-level comic book characters and turning them into franchise hits, Gunn does a lot with a little here with Marvel's first ever holiday special. Audience says, hilarious and really good. What a cool little idea for a story, one that doesn't warrant a full movie but is perfect for a special. It's immediately elevated by the characters we already know and love. Overall, 89% fresh, more of a stocking stuffer than a fully rounded parcel. This Yuletide excursion is a delightful showcase for Drax, Mantis, and a very game Kevin Bacon. A Charlie Brown Christmas. Charlie Brown is having the holiday blues despite the red and green lights that are sparkling around him. He follows Lucy's suggestion and takes charge of the Christmas play to get into the holiday spirit. And what would a holiday performance be without a tree? Everyone makes fun of Charlie Brown's short, spindly evergreen until the true spirit of Christmas restores their respect for it. Critics say the special ends on a joyous note, and the lo-fi charms of its non-professional voice cast and simple yet expressive animation retain a pleasantly transportive power. Audience says, one of my favorite movies to see every year. This has gone from being a movie to a tradition. I watched with my family every year and now share this experience with my kids. I still tear up every time Linus has his monologue at the end, and when they all fix that poor little tree to be the best. Overall, 85% fresh. Frosty the Snowman. A group of kids' snowman comes to life thanks to a magic top hat that was left behind. But when the magician demands it back, the temperature starts to increase. If the kids can't get Frosty away from him, he'll melt, so he boards a train with young Karen and heads to the North Pole. Critics say, to those of middle age who remember Frosty fondly, we offer this warning: look again and yawn. Audience says, he's cool. Who didn't grow up watching Frosty tell the world happy birthday? Frosty the Snowman is a pure delight and an annual tradition at our house, even before we had children. Christmas just isn't Christmas until we see Frosty on TV. Besides, here's a story that reinforces a child's love of Christmas time and the wonder of the first snowfall, not to mention the power of friendship, kindness, and good old Santa Claus. Overall, 73% fresh, Frosty the Snowman is a jolly, happy sing-along that will delight children with its crisp animation and affable title character, who makes an indelible impression with his corncob pipe button nose and eyes made out of coal. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. In order to create the perfect family Christmas as the holidays draw near, Clark Griswold annoys his wife Ellen and kids while checking that everything is in order, including the tree and home decorations. But immediately, things start to go wrong. Eddie, his cousin, and other backwoods relatives unexpectedly move into a camper on the Griswold property. Even worse, Clark's employers fail to pay him the necessary holiday bonus. Critics say, if it doesn't make you at least giggle, then you clearly don't understand the true meaning of the festive season. Audience says, Christmas Vacation is an occasionally charming dysfunctional family holiday film that is nonetheless not as funny as it could be. It doesn't quite reach the Christmas classic heights it could have. Rating, 53. Overall, 73% fresh. While Christmas Vacation may not be the most disciplined comedy, it's got enough laughs and good cheer to make for a solid seasonal treat. Spirited, a contemporary musical adaptation of the traditional Christmas tale A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. In this retelling, the three Christmas ghosts, the past, present, and yet to come assist in finding and saving one more human soul each Christmas. Critics say, if you're retelling the umpteenth version of the same story, it shouldn't take more than 2 hours to do it regardless of the detours and small surprises plotted. Audience says, brought my spirits up. Spirited is literally everything I wanted from a Christmas musical and so much more. It is so good. I truly adored this Apple TV Plus original, and anyone who is a fan of musicals should check it out. You'll be treating yourself to an amazing time. Overall, 68% fresh. Although it adds little to the long tradition of Dickens adaptations, Spirited is so genially overstuffed that it's easy to at least intermittently enjoy. Scrooged. In this updated version of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Frank Cross is a tremendously successful television executive who has lost Claire Phillips, the love of his life, due to his ruthless ambition and sour disposition. But on Christmas Eve, after firing a staff member named Elliot Loudermilk, Frank is visited by a number of spirits who give him the chance to reflect on his previous mistakes and make amends. Critics say, despite a lengthy wind-up that promises to deliver at least a minor tug at the heart, Scrooged is as sterile as some of the film's sexist gross-out jokes. Audience says, yeah, it's a mess, but I've always found the movie's insanity appealing. It takes a lot of risks both narratively and visually which, given the mostly dismal state of current holiday comedies, makes it more enduring every year. Overall, 69% fresh, Scrooge gets by with Bill Murray and a dash of holiday spirit, although it's hampered by a markedly conflicted tone and an undercurrent of mean-spiritedness. Home Alone. Kevin McAllister, an annoying 8-year-old, is sent to sleep in the attic by his mother when he misbehaves the night before the family's trip to Paris. Kevin wakes up to an empty house and believes his wish to have no family has come true after the McAllisters inadvertently leave for the airport without him. But when he learns that two con artists intend to loot the McAllister home and that he is the only one who can stop them, his excitement turns to dread. Critics say, when it's going somewhere, Home Alone is quite funny, but Hughes and Columbus hung too much on the scene-setting slide idea, the film brings too much baggage, and the trip seems much too long. Audience says, this is the movie as a kid that proved to me that laughter is great medicine. I was pretty sick the day my dad took me to see this in the theaters and walked out of the theater feeling much better. Great script by John Hughes and full of slapstick greatness by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. Overall, 67% fresh. Home Alone, an even but frequently funny premise stretched unreasonably thin is buoyed by Macaulay Culkin's cute performance and strong supporting stars. Krampus. While the holiday season is perhaps the most magical time of the year, Krampus, a horned beast that punishes misbehaving children at Christmas, is warned of an ancient European tradition. Young Max loses his holiday cheer due to dysfunctional family arguments, which summons the ferocious demon's fury. The Angel family is under Krampus' control, so Mom, Pop, sister, and brother must work together to prevent each other from suffering a terrible end. Critics say, Krampus is a horror comedy that doesn't go far enough into either of its two genres. There's too much wasted potential to make this a true holiday horror classic. Audience says, absolute PG-13 letdown of a horror movie. If there was a sequel, I'd straight up die. Bad plot, bad characters, bad goddamn everything. 2 out of 10, 9% on the tomato meter for me. It's not a good watch. Overall, 66% fresh. Krampus is gory good fun for fans of non-traditional holiday horror with a fondness for Joe Dante's B-movie classics, even if it doesn't have quite the savage bite its concept calls for. Love Actually. The subtleties of the one emotion that unites all people, love, are examined in 9 interconnected stories. Hugh Grant plays David, the dashing newly elected British Prime Minister who develops feelings for a young junior staff member. Laura Linney plays Sarah, a graphic designer whose commitment to her mentally ill brother complicates her love life. And Alan Rickman plays Harry, a married man who is seduced by his alluring new secretary. Critics say the tagline for Love Actually is the ultimate romantic comedy. Perhaps, but not in the sense the producers intended. Audience says, a really cute film for lonely adults. Even though the stories are unbelievable and overwhelmingly romantic, you can't help but appreciate the acting from the star-studded cast. Definitely a good film to watch when you are lonely and want to binge eating. Overall, 64% fresh, a sugary tale overstuffed with too many stories. Still, the cast charms. Miracle on 34th Street. Susan Walker, age 6, is doubtful of the Christmas superstition involving Santa Claus, a quality she may have inherited from her mother Dory. When Dory is tasked with finding a Santa to pose with children at Macy's, the man with the odd name of Kris Kringle, who professes to be Santa himself, gets hired. His claims are dismissed and he is threatened with institutionalization. But Susan and Dory, along with a young lawyer, stand up for him. Critics say the new Miracle on 34th Street, produced by John Hughes and written by him with George Seaton, is a dull project that makes only cosmetic changes in the original. Audience says, although I enjoy the Matilda and Mrs. Doubtfire girl, this movie wasn't the best. This is one of those cases where nothing was wrong with the original, so why remake it? It fell short. Overall, 60% fresh. Home Alone 2. Lost in New York. Inadvertently boarding a flight to New York City while the rest of the McAllister family is flying to Florida, grumpy young Kevin McAllister misses his father at the airport. Kevin, who is now by himself in New York City, tricks his way into a suite at the Plaza Hotel and starts his typical pranks. But when Kevin learns that the Sticky Bandits are at large, he finds it difficult to prevent them from robbing a senior citizen's toy shop right before Christmas. Critics say it's much more violent than the first film's comparable set of dirty tricks, and Kevin, removed from his embattled home, seems much more cavalier, possibly even meaner than his bullying older brother, Buzz, Devin Rattray. Audience says loses a little of what the first one had because the story was so focused on the house, but as the story moves to New York City, the scope is much bigger. Still watchable and many funny parts, you filthy animal. Overall, 35% fresh, a change of venue, and more sentimentality and violence can't obscure the fact that Home Alone 2, Lost in New York is a less inspired facsimile of its predecessor. It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey expresses his desire to never have been born, and an angel is dispatched to Earth to grant his wish. George begins to comprehend the number of lives he has affected and changed, as well as how they would differ if he had never existed. Critics say It's a Wonderful Life is a wonderful title for a motion picture about which practically everyone who sees it will agree that it's wonderful entertainment. Audience says this movie is everything and is a true life lesson of appreciation for your life even with issues you think are overwhelming. Love it and watch it every year since I was a teenager. Overall, 93% fresh, a holiday classic to define all holiday classics. It's a Wonderful Life is one of a handful of films worth an annual viewing. A Christmas Story Christmas. The sequel to the classic holiday film A Christmas Story, A Christmas Story Christmas follows an adult Ralphie as he navigates the holiday season for the first time from the perspective of a father. Peter Billingsley is back in the part that has made children of all ages look forward to Christmas morning with great anticipation. Critics say goes to show that when it comes to reasons to make a sequel to a beloved classic movie, nostalgia should never top the list. Audience says great sequel, a new classic, same tone, same vibe, same story but in a different way. I loved it. It had wonderful nods to the original, the spirit of the original, the aesthetic of the original, but a film that stands completely on its own. I absolutely loved it. Overall, 78% fresh. It isn't as much fun as an official Red Ryder carbine action, 200-shot range model air rifle with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time, but A Christmas Story Christmas remains a sequel worth celebrating. Star Wars Holiday Special. The planet Kashyyyk, where Chewbacca is from, celebrates Life Day today. Han Solo and Chewie are attempting to travel to the planet where Chewie's family is waiting for him, but the Empire is making their journey difficult by looking for rebels. We get a glimpse into a Wookiee family's daily routine while we wait. During a little cartoon, we get to know all the well-known characters from Star Wars, Episode 4 A New Hope, as well as Boba Fett. Critics say, yes, it features Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford, but nobody who saw this kitschy TV abomination back in 1978 was surprised that George Lucas wanted it erased from human memory. Audience says, don't talk to me about Episode 1 until you've seen this unholy mess. Not long ago, I attended a party given by my Star Wars group, and as a prize in the trivia contest, I received, among other things, a VHS copy of the Star Wars Holiday Special. Having now seen it, I have begun to wonder if it wouldn't have best been served as the booby prize. Overall, 25% fresh. Three wise men and a baby. It's the holiday surprise of a lifetime for three brothers when they have to pitch in to help take care of a newborn. As they get the hang of things, they each go on their own surprising voyage of self-discovery and repair their strained sibling bonds as well as their shattered romantic and professional partnerships, all while rediscovering the joy of Christmas. Critics say, taking an 80s comedy classic and Christmas-ifying it, Hallmark's genius knows no bounds. Audience says, loved this Hallmark holiday movie. It is a refreshing departure from the usual love-struck storyline, and the three main characters are wonderful and believably authentic. Highly recommended. Overall, 7.8 stars out of 10 out of 1.9 thousand votes.